Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Salam Malaysia Madani. Salam Malaysia mahal dah ni. Okay,
Yes.
welcome back to the second episode of YBNU podcast. Podcast yang baru nak up. So today, we have a very special episode with our new guest speaker. So who is it, UK?
But before introducing our guest speaker, I
Yeah.
want to ask Asia, how long did it take for you to come to the studio?
Okay, it was actually the actual distance is like very close. It's like 10 minutes. But it took me almost 15 minutes plus.
Alright, because you came not during peak hour. Sebab saya datang masa peak hour. The distance from my house to the studio is approximately 20 minutes drive. But it took me 1 hour and a half. Sebab apa? Sebab traffic jam gila kau. So today's episode we are going to talk about traffic jam lah. And our guest none other than Zaidel Baharuddin,
Welcome,
Naib
Zaidel.
Presiden of Parti MUDA. Assalamualaikum Zaidel.
Waalaikumsalam.
Zaidel sihat ya?
Okay.
Okay, so Zaidel, today's episode we're going to talk about traffic jam, and before this I've spoken with Zaidel dan Zaidel pernah cerita bahawa Zaidel ingin menjadi Menteri Pengangkutan jika satu
betul
hari dapatlah nanti.
Bukanlah cita-cita saya untuk jadi Menteri Pengangkutan, tapi kalau banyak kementerian, antara yang saya minat adalah Menteri Pengangkutan lah.
Kenapa tu?
Sebab dulu saya banyak pakai pengangkutan awam, daripada LRT ke bas dan sebagainya.
Okay.
Mungkin ini pandangan peribadi saya lah, mungkin ada bias sikit, tapi saya rasa kalau menteri tu guna pengangkutan awam, mungkin ia akan jauh lebih lancar. Sistem pengangkutan awam saya rasa banyak boleh diperbetulkan daripada waktu bas, bagaimana bas beroperasi, kemudian adalah beberapa benda yang saya secara peribadi nak tengoklah dibuat.
Tapi politician sekarang ada ke yang guna public transport?
Okey, kalau seorang menteri kalau nak gunakan pengangkutan awam sepenuhnya tak praktikal lah, sebab dia kena pergi daripada satu A ke B ke C ke D. Ya, kadang-kadang pengangkutan awam ni di mana-mana negara pun biasanya orang politik dia tak guna pengangkutan awam. Mungkinlah ada beberapa dari negara-negara Skandinavia, Switzerland mungkin untuk pergi ke pejabat dan balik bolehlah.
Okay.
Tapi saya rasa kalau guna pengangkutan awam, contohnya Menteri Pengangkutan guna pengangkutan awam, dan juga bila sistem di Malaysia ni di mana menteri sangat berkuasa, it's a bit top down where the minister can really push something happen. Saya rasa sistem kita boleh di naik taraf dengan baik.
Okay.
After speaking about public transportation, Zaidel, I would like to ask, how did Zaidel came to the studio today?
Okay, so here's the thing. I've tried to come to the studio here before using LRT. So tonight I drove. So untuk datang ke sini, to come to here, you will have to go to Kelana Jaya Line.
Yes.
Kelana Jaya Line. So saya daripada Gombak, saya akan naik the Gombak, the first station to Kelana Jaya Line. The problem is that daripada Kelana Jaya punya station ke sini, last mile tak ada. Mungkin ada bas, tapi kita tak ada. Saya dah tengok semua bas-bas tu tak ada lalu sini. The details is not that clear.
Actually ada, sebab saya pernah ambil bus from PJ to here. So there is the free bus actually. Tapi
betul,
dia ada
tapi itu Selangor
dia.
dia ada waktu-waktu dia. And itu Selangor free bus kan?
Yes, free
Selangor
bus.
bagi yang warna hijau tu kan? Malam dia ada tak?
Malam tak ada. Ya, betul.
Itu isu dia. So kita shooting ni pukul 9 malam, tak ada. Sebab saya pernah datang malam. Free bus tu tak, mungkin saya silap lah. Kemudian jadual tu kita tak berapa tepat. Kita tak tahu pukul berapa. Jadi bila kita guna pengangkutan awam, contohnya saya kena datang sini, katalah saya ada temu janji dengan anda berdua pukul 9 malam. Saya kena tahu bas tu sampai pukul berapa dan pukul berapa dia kena sampai sini. Itu isu last mile di Malaysia ni sebenarnya. Jadi yang kali tai saya kena pakai Grab. Ambil Grab.
Grab is the only solution lah.
Bukan the only, for now is the only solution. Saya cuba jalan kaki tapi jauh.
Jauh, betul.
Saya pernah cuba jalan kaki lah daripada Kelana Jaya punya station ke sini, tak ada.
Yes, we will go more into the first and last mile problem in Malaysia later on in the episode. But as of now, jom kita bincang tentang traffic jam and how does government policy actually influence traffic jam.
Okay.
Okay. Tapi sebelum tu saya just nak point a study made by actually BCG. So there's a statistic that on average daily people of KL be in traffic jam for 53 minutes like every day. And they spend like 13.4 days in 1 year just being in the traffic jam. Isn't that ridiculous?
That's not surprising to me actually.
Yeah, but that's to show like how horrible it is, how heavy the traffic in Malaysia. And then it's just issue that everyone is facing.
Yang report BCG tu di Kuala Lumpur kan atau satu Malaysia?
Di Kuala Lumpur,
Kuala
specifically.
Lumpur. Specifically, yes.
Yeah.
Specifically Kuala Lumpur lah, because Kuala Lumpur is a highly populated area in entire Malaysia kan, if I'm not wrong.
The most concentrated lah.
Betul.
Klang Valley lah. I think itu Klang Valley kan?
Valley, yeah.
Klang Valley.
Klang Valley. Okay, so that's not surprising lah. So with that out of the way, here's a question to Zaidel. So how does government policy actually influence like traffic jam in terms of city planning or their policy on vehicles, like on the subsidy for vehicles, subsidies on the petrol? How does it affect traffic jam actually?
So the number one policy, it's a very popular policy that will have a direct impact on traffic is fuel subsidies. That's the number one policy. Okay. So let's just say if today fuel prices were to follow world prices, you will see a immediate reduction of traffic jams. So that.
Tapi dengan kita nak realistik kan.
Betul.
Dengan taraf hidup yang makin tinggi sekarang, pelbagai teks dah pun naik dan sebagainya. Jadi orang tak mampu kalau kita kalau harga minyak tu naik kan.
Betul.
Jadi dia akan menyusahkan lagi rakyat.
Betul.
Dan kita tak boleh ensure pun yang traffic tu akan semakin berkurang kan.
Dia confirm kurang. Kalau seliter RM4, kuranglah kereta atas jalan.
Sebab
terutama bila sekarang ni, bila semua harga barang naik.
Okay.
Saya beranilah kalau tanya saya, katalah harga minyak ikut traffic jam akan turun. Sebabnya cost. Okay, so bila kita tengok traffic jam lah, orang pilih untuk naik kereta daripada alternatif lain misalnya. Maka kenapa dia pilih naik kereta? Pertamanya, sebenarnya masa. Walaupun tadi kita sebut purata 53 minit rakyat Malaysia khususnya di Lembah Kelang berada dalam traffic jam. Tetapi perkiraan mereka secara peribadi, kalau saya tidak naik kereta berbanding dengan saya kena tunggu bas, saya kira 53 minit tu kalau naik bas sejam setengah mungkin misalnya. Itu perkiraan pertama masa. Keduanya cost. So kalau dia naik pengangkutan awam, dia kena plan satu benda, kemudian dia tak boleh dia punya pergerakan tu terhad. Macam kereta, nanti nak singgah pergi supermarket kejap, mungkin
lebih
nak
convenient.
Lebih mudah. Itu yang perkiraan kedua. Yang perkiraan ketiga tu cost. Untuk saya dapatkan kemudahan ini dan saya membeli kereta, apa cost saya per kilometer. So sekarang ni bukannya kalau dengan harga minyak yang kita subsidi ni lebih murah banding dengan pengangkutan awam, pengangkutan masih lagi murah. Cumanya kita masih mampu lagi dengan RM2.10. Masih mampu lagi, boleh. Okay. Kemudian ada juga perkiraan lagi satu, contohnya katalah saya nak ambil pengangkutan awam berkongsi. Jadi dia kira masa, kos dengan kemudahan. 3 ni. Yang dia kira macam tu lah. Jadi kalau contohnya kos ni naik, dia akan beri kesan lah kepada yang lagi 2 tu.
Okay, katakanlah kos minyak tu naik kan.
Betul.
Dan orang lebih memilih untuk naik public transport.
Betul.
Tetapi like you said tadi kan, you nak datang sini pun macam the last LRT station pun jauh from here kan. So you still kena ambil Grab ataupun bus. So benda tu tak convenient untuk
beza dia ialah kalau minyak murah, saya boleh keluar rumah pukul 8 suku, saya sampai sini pukul 9. Kalau saya naik LRT, saya kena keluar pukul 7.
Like way awal lagi lah.
Yes, betul. Sebab saya pernah cuba naik totally on public transport, and it's either on public transport and on foot, dua-dua sekali, to go to campus from my house in Shah Alam. And it took me almost 2 hours and 30 minutes just to commute to campus. And compared to driving, it takes me an hour. So that's the thing lah.
So bila dia kira, kemudian lagi satu contoh, katalah kita naikkan minyak sebab isu kita adalah traffic jam. Itu ialah dasar yang selesaikan orang di Lembah Kelang. Tapi isu tu untuk orang di Sabah, Sarawak, di Kelantan, Terengganu, Pahang, yang dia tak ada traffic jam. Dan dia punya mode untuk transportation mode, dia punya pengangkutan ialah kenderaan peribadi. Itu lagi satu isu lah kita kena
Betul.
pandang.
Betul.
Jadi kita kena, bila membuat dasar, kita kena imbangkan antara dua. Jangan selalu kita tengok ruang lingkup lembah kelang sahaja. Kita juga tengok apa-apa dasar kita buat yang beri kesan kepada lembah kelang akan beri kesan kepada luar juga.
Betul.
So mungkin kaedah lain, contohnya katalah isu sekarang ni, baik saya nak kurangkan kesesakan dalam lembah kelang, itu isu dia. Pada masa yang sama saya tak nak lah, kalau satu cara ialah untuk tingkatkan kos penggunaan kenderaan dalam lembah kelang, bukan je harga minyak sahaja. Contoh kalau macam Singapura, dia ada cukai tambahan ERP ke misalnya, ataupun jalan-jalan tertentu kita tak benarkan kenderaan peribadi masuk. Ataupun kalau anda nak masuk ke pusat bandar, anda kena melalui tol. Ini antara cara-cara untuk kita nak menggalakkan orang naik pengangkutan awam.
Yes.
Itulah.
Speaking about Singapore, I did a little bit of research on myself. There's a vehicle quota on in Singapore. Like there's a quota on how much vehicle can there be
Betul.
on the road.
Yeah.
And seorang boleh memegang the vehicle for 10 years if I'm not wrong.
Correct. So in Singapore, is the issue is that not only do you need to buy a car, that's another cost.
Yep.
You also need to buy the rights to own a car.
Yes.
And then the rights to use the car at certain time.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's how they implement. That's how they manage congestion in Singapore.
Yeah.
so
Because if you want to drive in the cities during the peak hours, you actually need to pay
Correct.
fees.
And
yeah.
not only that, you have to pay for parking. So
And
there's a
all
lot
other
of
charges.
so bila betul contohnya orang kata kereta di Malaysia mahal, right? Kereta di Malaysia mahal sebab kita ada import duty yang tinggi untuk lindungi kereta buatan Malaysia macam Proton dan Kedua. Tetapi contohnya di Singapura misalnya, kos untuk mengoperasikan sebuah kenderaan peribadi dia ada banyak kos tambahan lain. Itu dasar yang dia pilih lah.
So tu membuatkan orang tak nak own car lah. Dia orang lebih prefer untuk naik public transportation.
Dia
If
nak
it's
miliki
efficient
kenderaan tapi dia tak
Tak
No
mampu.
choice,
Ah.
no choice.
No
Jadi
choice lah.
timbal balik dia ialah dia kena ambil pengangkutan awam. So
Okay.
then we come dan kemudian ada isu lah, dia kata mana satu dulu. Bahasa Inggeris chicken or egg, right? So ada kata kan, kita tak ada pengangkutan awam yang efisien sebab kita tak ada jumlah orang yang pakai cukup.
Okay,
Contohnya
that
orang
makes
tak bagi
sense.
feedback dan kita contohnya kita buat bas yang naik 3 orang aja. Pada masa yang sama ada pula yang kata kita tak guna pengangkutan awam sebab pengangkutan awam tak efisien. So chicken and egg issue lah, itu dia. Kemudian saya tahu kadang-kadang kita banyak bandingkan diri kita dengan Singapura misalnya. Khususnya dalam pengangkutan awam. Saya pernah pergi naik bas dia tepat pada masanya, MRT dan sebagainya. Tapi Singapura tu besar mana? Kepadatan dia tinggi.
Yes. It's a highly
Contoh,
it's a high density city.
Untuk dia daripada dia boleh jogging daripada hujung Singapura ke hujung Singapura. Point to point, daripada hujung Singapura ke utara ke selatan boleh jogging.
Nanti paling jauh pun dalam half an hour, right?
Kalau jogging lah, kalau jogging laju lah. Contoh.
Sorry, kalau drive
pelari
is
yang
half an
hebat
hour,
lah.
but kalau
Drive
jogging,
mungkin jogging lebih
take
cepat kot
longer.
sebab you go on a straight line. Macam tu lah.
okay.
Jadi kalau kita nak bandingkan secara begitu pun susah juga. Tapi kita kena cari satu jalan yang mana sesuai untuk Malaysia lah.
Okay, cakap pasal the demand for public transportation. Macam hari ni sebab saya biasa naik LRT kan dengan MRT. Jadi memang every day during peak hours is very packed. Sometimes memang tak ada seat pun untuk duduk. So
betul.
we can see there's demand. Tapi kenapa public transportation di Malaysia like it's not improved significantly over the years?
Okay, improve. Tetapi kalau when you say over this, what is your length? Is it 5, 10 or 20 years, right? So
I think we need to take long term lah.
long term
Yeah.
je ada beza banyak.
Betul.
Okay, pertamanya saya cuba jawab yang first part of your comment tadi, yang jawab yang pertamanya iaitu penuh bila dipakai peak hours. Kadang bila kita isu tengok pengangkutan awam, khususnya kereta api lah, LRT, MRT dan sebagainya, waktu peak hours penuh lah, tapi bila petang kosong, malam pun kosong. Itu yang pertama. Keduanya, bila kita banding dengan negara lain, kalau nak bandingkan Jepun, tak ada benda. Kita punya trafik tak ada benda. Jepun lagi lah, dia ada orang dia akan tolak. Singapura dan sebagainya. Itu yang keduanya lah. Keduanya, kalau kita nak tengok adakah ia makin lebih baik ke atau tidak. Kalau dari segi infrastruktur, kalau nak banding dengan mula-mula tahun 2000, ada beza. Contohnya dulu LRT kita cuma ada kajang lain, dia panggil Putra, Star dengan monorail. Sekarang ni dah nama baru lah. Kemudian digabungkan, contohnya untuk Kelana Jaya Lain dipanjangkan. Dulu berhenti setakat Kelana Jaya Gombak, sekarang sampai ke Putra Heights. Kemudian kita sudah ada MRT Sungai Buloh Kajang Lain.
Betul.
Tapi cuma kalau kritikan yang kita nak beri, bukannya sama ada pengangkutan awam bertambah atau tidak, kadang-kadang jumlah belanjawan ataupun bajet yang kita letak kepada benda tu, pulangannya tak begitu baik kerana implementation atau implementasi yang tidak baik. Saya bagi contoh, Sungai Buloh Kajang Lain, MRT Sungai Buloh Kajang. Saya secara peribadi dulu pernah tahun 2018 buat kajian melalui lisen GPS. Lokasi stesen-stesen tu tak strategik dan bagi saya kurang masuk akal.
So dari segi planning tu sendiri.
Betul.
Kan?
Kalau kita tengok Kelana Jaya Lain, dekat mana stesen tu berada untuk orang mudah pergi dan sebagainya, kepadatan penduduk, sambungan dan sebagainya. Kalau kita tengok Sungai Buloh Kajang Lain, dia lebih kepada kawasan-kawasan perumahan yang mana didiami atau yang mampu dimiliki oleh orang yang tak berapa nak naik MRT. Contohnya, sebabnya kemudian dia banyak bersambung dengan gedung membeli belah daripada hospital misalnya, benda-benda macam tu. Kemudian dia banyak terkait dengan projek-projek baru, perumahan baru. Contoh kalau naik Sungai Buloh Kajang Lain akan nampak projek-projek pangsepuri baru, 500,000, 600,000 boleh terus masuk ke MRT station. Tetapi orang yang mampu beli rumah, apartmen 3 bilik harga 500,000, 600,000,
diorang tak naik public transport.
Tak naik.
Isn't that counterintuitive?
Betul. So that's the problem it is, right? So here's one of the problem. I don't want to touch on the government. Maybe there's something dodgy going on. It's a bit weird that all of the stations so happen to be friendly towards certain developers. This station is this developer. Never mind. I don't want to touch that but put it this way, right? So one of the problem is that how we value property. And maybe there's speculation to it. And again, what I say is hypothesis. So if you go to Hong Kong and Singapore and other places, that the idea that the apartment is worth 600,000 is because of convenience. You want to buy this apartment by this particular developer because it's so convenient
Easy
to the
access,
MRT, easy access. You can go to Central KL. So that's number one. But if you live in Hong Kong or Singapore and there are no other means of transportation other than public transportation, that makes absolute sense. Or if you live in Hong Kong and Singapore where there's a scarcity of land, right? So this is the only places where you can buy, then that makes sense. The problem is this is Malaysia, right? So if I were to buy a 600,000, 1,000 square feet apartment, I might as well live a little bit further and buy a landed property.
That's true.
With two story. So rather than living at Kuasa Damansara, I just live a bit off, say, I don't know, maybe Sepang and get a car. Because, and then there's another idea is that, okay, you buy this for investment. So you buy this as an investment for 30 years. In the meantime, you rent it out and maybe you make a profit and someone will pay for it. All right. So let's just say you pay for a apartment is 600,000 ringgit. Which I think is about monthly installment about 2,500 depending on which loan you take or what is the interest rate that you take upon it, 2,500. So you're going to rent out, you need a little bit of profit because you want to pay for the maintenance fees and whatever, 3,000 ringgit. Who can afford a 3,000 ringgit rent?
That's very hard.
Yes.
Exactly. So someone who wants to use the MRT, who can only afford maybe 1,800 ringgit rent, will live slightly further, buy a motorbike, and then park at the MRT station and then take the MRT station. And what you happen is that you have a lot of overhang property surrounding the MRT station. So it's a double whammy. So number one, the property valuation. So if you notice, right, another one, if you have an example, go to LRT Jelati. So LRT Jelati used to be built on this PPR, Pangsepuri Rakyat lah, at Jelati. I think PKNS did it. So what PKNS did was that they raised the entire places and they, with a developer from China, I think, so they built this spanking new apartment complex called Datum Jelati. And they market it as easy convenience access and they sell a studio apartment for 500,000. So the LRT station was built for the access of the middle class and also the working class and the blue collar folks. They raise it and they suddenly make it into a T20 with investments from China, targeting from folks overseas to buy it, easy access. So if you want to see the development is successful or not, don't look it during the daytime. Don't look at the malls. Go at night. Go at about 9 p.m. Look at the apartment. How many lights are on? Then you know the occupancy rate. I'm telling you, Datum Jelati under PKNS, under Selangor State Government way back then, it's zero. It's empty. So
okay, so we want to have a short break.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a very short break. Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the second episode of YB&U podcast. And
Salam kembali.
today, kita telah bercakap tentang traffic jam, kan?
And more on public transport, which I'm going to try to bring the topic back to traffic jam juga.
Baik.
Okay, tapi sebelum tu kita ada prop baru kat sini.
Yes. Sebab mic tak cukup tinggi lah, tak dengar tadi. Tak apa.
Saya nak maklumkan lah, dekat Shopee RM49.90 je lah untuk mic arm tu lah. Tapi yalah,
Okay,
ni startup lah kan, jadi kita guna kotak je lah. Saya
betul lah, kami
anyone nak
bantu
sponsor?
saya ialah Yos Drinho lah.
kami
Please
miskin
sponsor.
sekarang. Yang mana-mana pihak yang ada bisnes, ada produk yang ingin menaja episod or menaja YB&U as a whole, sila hubungi kami kat email yang ada di description yang di bawah.
Baik.
And let's get back to topic.
Let's
So,
go.
Okay, Zaidel, my question for you is like banyak-banyak traffic jam, and then the government solution is build more highway. Recently we see a lot of new highways opening, like the SUKE, like the Dash Highway, and Max Highway. I'm not sure Max is considered new lah, but
Lama dah.
lama dah. But yeah, there's a lot of new highway going on, and yeah, with the West Coast Expressway, WCE. So why does the government prefer to build more highway to curb traffic jams?
So okay, let's look highways. It's not all highways are similar, right? So there are certain highways where you call intercity highways. For instance, Lekas that connects you from Kuala Pilah to Kuala Lumpur. Or you have a north-south highway that connects you the entire west coast of the Peninsular Malaysia. So this one, our highways are pretty make sense, right? Because you don't have trains in these areas or the East Coast Highway. The problem with traffic jam, and I think when traffic jam is intra-city highways, like your Akle, like your Duke, the Duta Ulu Kelang Expressway and things like that. So if the criticism that there's too many highways and that we don't need more highways and we need to work on our public transportation is the intra-city highways, which is why, if you notice, I'm not fond of the PGD link, which has been rebranded as KIDEX, because we've seen intra-city highways during construction severely affects the value of particular neighborhoods in regards to they exacerbated the traffic in the certain areas. Potholes are everywhere, and their benefits can be debated. Some are quite good, some are not in such a way. So which is why, if you notice, and this has bipartisan support, well, not all bipartisan, only certain. Of recent, the Adun of Kampung Tungku were also pleading with the Selangor State Government to not revive the PJD link. So that sort of thing. I think when we say that there are too many highways, I think intra-city highways.
So basically, creating more highways does not actually mitigate the problem, but it's actually add more problem to it.
Well, again, so if it's a badly designed highway, for instance, when you converge everything to the middle ring road, so you have a bottleneck. A classic example would be the middle ring road in Ampang. Kalau kita guna lebuh raya lingkaran tengah 2, kalau menghala ke Ampang, kalau banyak berlaku kesesakan lalu lintas di Ampang. Kenapa? Situlah tempat SUKE turun dan naik. Situ juga Duke pun di situ, Akleh pun di situ. So dia bertembung di situ.
Betul.
Jadi itu yang jadi begitulah. Sebab tu kalau bila kritikan, nak kata lebuh raya tidak mengurangkan kesesakan lalu lintas, tak berapa tepat lah. Lebuh raya yang tidak direka bentuk dengan baik membuatkan lalu lintas itu tidak dikurangkan lah. Kemudian bila kita ada lebuh raya, kita menggalakkan orang lebih untuk memandu daripada menggunakan pengangkutan awam. Tapi budaya ni bukanlah berlaku 3-4 tahun. Ini sejak tahun 90-an. Malaysia ini ialah sebuah negara yang gilakan kereta.
Betul.
Betul.
So Zaidel, by building new highway, it gives incentive for people to drive more. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest problem in Malaysia, isn't it? Would you say so? Like there are many unnecessary highway that they are being built. For example, like the PJD link, which is telah dibantah, but they want to revive it again.
So I have to say this with caveat, right? Highways by itself is not a bad thing. Highway is an infrastructure. It brings progress. It brings development. I'll give you an example, right? Our first mega project in Malaysia is the North-South Highway Plus. You know, right? It transformed how people travel. Back then, people want to go balik kampung from Kuala Lumpur to Ipoh will take them about 4, 5, sometimes 8 hours. Now they take them 2 hours. People can go holiday on Port Dickson because of the North-South Highway. Sejam aja keluar KL pergi Port Dickson. Imagine what tourism does to Port Dickson per se. You can go to direct KLCC from my house in like 15 minutes. So highway itself is not bad per se. Badly designed highways with badly thought of urban planning makes the issue exacerbated. Again, you need road networks and you need highways and you need toll highways because not just, again, when we talk about roads, it's not just about us driving a car. Bukan saja pemandu persendirian. Jangan lupa, logistik pun sama. Orang hantar awak punya Grab, orang hantar ayam kepada supermarket, ya, gedung-gedung membeli belah, penghantaran order Shopee, semua pakai jalan raya. Jadi bila kita nak buat satu kenyataan menyeluruh, katakan, oh lebuh raya itu tidak bagus, tak berapa tepat. Lebuh raya yang tidak direka bentuk dengan baik, itu yang kita tak nak.
So in simple term, lebuh raya yang bodoh itu adalah masalah.
Biasa. Semua benda yang bodoh akan masalah lah. Jangan kata lebuh raya.
Fair enough.
Also, I want to talk about a term called induced demand.
Yes.
So basically, if you create like more roadways
Correct.
yang
So,
badly designed roadways ataupun highway, then it can encourage more people to drive because
Betul.
they assume that there is more space, but it actually will lead to more traffic
correct.
problems.
So yeah, correct. That's induced demand as well.
Yes.
So if you notice, right, when induced demand, when you have more highways, our population is not growing at a exponential rate. No, I mean it's growing. In fact, now some of it is shrinking due to low birth rates. But there seem to be more and more cars on the roads.
More cars.
More cars, and then in fact, it's normal for per household you have more than 2 cars. In certain households, you have more cars than people who can drive the cars. Right? So because they have inheritance cars they bought 20 years ago, is still in running condition, they keep it. So that's what induced demand is. So urban planners. So that's the problem, right? So when you do a policy and you do planning and a long-term plan, you need to look at holistic. Problem is that we work in silos, right? Urban planner plans about what urban is, and then there's a highway pula, another angle, and then there's policy making. So you need to look at in a holistic manner.
So can't they all just sit down and find out the best solution for all of them?
Correct. And sometimes, so here's the thing how it works usually, right? One, when you change of guards, kalau bahasa Melayu, lain padang, lain belalang. So when you change civil servants, when you change minister, when you change prime minister, the outlook is different. That's one thing. And it's not just a political thing. Civil servants changes as well. Datuk Bandar Kuala Lumpur changes as well. And then there are vested interests as well. Vested interest is not necessarily corruption, but certain people who are, or certain businesses who will lobby for a certain project because it benefits their industry, it benefits certain that as well. And when you sit down together and you have a good solution, the thing is that you won't see it today. You will see it in 10 years down the road. A good example would be Jakarta. So when I, way back then, 20 years ago, Jakarta was infamous for the term macet, which is traffic jam for Indonesian. So what happened was that they implemented several things along the way. Now there's still macet in Jakarta, and the traffic jam in Jakarta is way
It's very bad.
worse than KL lah. Tadi kita bising nak datang sini, try going to Jakarta lah or Manila. So what they did was, first they started with bus lanes, and then they introduced MRT stations, and then they had a car-free day. right? Dedicated bus lanes, which I think if what Malaysia could do in Kuala
We
Lumpur
are
is dedicated,
lacking in that, actually.
dedicated bus
Yeah.
lanes. We could learn from that. It's
Yep.
much cheaper than having a $36 billion train misalnya.
Betul.
So dedicated bus lanes. And now, so they've mitigated, dia orang dah berjaya kurangkan kesesakan lalu lintas Jakarta dengan benda-benda macam ni. Tapi Joko Widodo, Presiden yang dah nak berhenti ni, dia tahu masalah utama Jakarta dan Pulau Jawa ialah kepadatan penduduk. Kerana semuanya ada di situ. Itu yang dia buat, idea yang dia ambil pinjam saya rasa daripada Malaysia. Dia pindahkan ibu negara daripada Jakarta ke kementerian dia, kerajaan dia ke Nusantara di Kalimantan. Sebagaimana kita pindahkan kita punya kerajaan administratif di Putrajaya. So again, but you don't see, you're not going to see this happening for next 2-3 years. The effects will only happen in the 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
The problem is that in Malaysia, we have a lot of politicians who look at immediate gains, rather statesmen that look 20-30 years down the road, where the fruit of the seed that they plant will no longer be there when they mungkin dah tak ada situ lagi dah.
Because they want to show it during their pemerintahan.
Betul.
What
Immediately
they have
saya
done.
buat ni, saya buat nak cepat.
So they are looking at the short
short
term.
term, long term macam tu.
That's
So
right.
itulah dia pindahkan. Dan Malaysia dah buat macam tu juga. Sebab tu dulu traffic jam lagi teruk. Dia orang ada buat lawak. Dia kata anda dua tak lahir ikut. Dulu famous lah buku Lat. Dia ada satu lukisan dia kata okey, pukul 4 ialah traffic jam orang kerja government. Sebab dia orang keluar pukul 4. Pukul 5 orang traffic jam kerja swasta. Pukul 6 traffic jam ialah orang yang elak traffic jam jadi dia keluar lambat.
Ada.
That's the
kerja
joke.
lain pula.
That's the joke. Sebabnya masa tu everything was in Jalan Duta. Everything was in Jalan. All the government was in Jalan Duta, and then the private sector was in Jalan Tun Razak, Jalan Ampang. So when you move everything to Putrajaya, you alleviated this group of people from commuting.
So you move all the civil servant from Jalan Duta
To Putrajaya.
to Putrajaya.
Another example, right? Notorious traffic back then, yang people miss flight was when the airport was in Subang. So at first, the old airport, again, you weren't born yet. I wasn't born this time as well. The first airport was in Sungai Besi, right smack in the middle of Kuala Lumpur. And then they moved it to Subang, which is the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, masa tu. And then massive traffic in Subang, right? So orang nak pergi airport, what they did, they move it to KLIA. Sepang. So itu cara kita nak kurangkan
Kan traffic
jam juga, kita sebarkan. So it's not just, there's no silver bullet saying that okay, stop building highways tiba traffic tak ada. Naik harga minyak tiba traffic tak ada. Oh, kita jangan galakkan. No, it's a mixture of various
Everything.
policies. And what we sorely need more than anything are statesmen. Pemimpin yang tengok 20, 30, 40 yang akan datang.
That's what we want.
Bukan 2-3 tahun yang akan datang.
Zaidel, Asia.
Yep.
So we've been talking about some solutions that could help about the traffic jam, like moving the capital to somewhere else.
Administrative capital, yes.
Administrative capital to somewhere else.
Moving the
like,
airport.
moving the airport somewhere else. But how about instead of moving things, have we ever thought about moving the vehicle itself, like flying cars? Ini konsep yang dibawa pada tahun 2018 kan. I remember there's a demo, there's a prototype yang kecil sangat. It looks like two person sitting on top of two fans that are strapped together, and they call that the flying car of Malaysia lah. But I'm intrigued by the idea of flying cars because that's a concept that's very interesting. People think like
so this is suddenly you will stop talking the politician part of me and then the engineer part comes in. So we already have flying cars actually. They're called helicopters. Literally it is.
That's not a car?
So okay, right, what is the definition of car? Something four wheels and move, right? So flying car is that you transport people from one point to the other point using the in the air.
In the air.
It's a helicopter. But okay, I'll entertain the idea of the flying car, right? So how flying car works is exactly, it's a helicopter. So you need rotors, you need force to push down, equivalent that you can push up your weight, right? You need to have that push up. And then so that the idea of flying cars is that, so right now, the reason why you have traffic is because you're traveling in a two-dimensional plane. Ni jalan raya Wah, sekarang dah 2 dimensional. Baik.
Masuk
So
fisik.
kita sekarang kita buat bahasa Melayu lah. Bila saya nak tunjukkan bahawa anda boleh cakap pasal sains dalam bahasa kebangsaan.
Macam ni lah.
Tak payah, ni jalan raya. Sini kita tengok sini.
Tak payah tu.
Tak payah lukis.
Indonesia.
Baik. So sekarang ni idea kereta terbang ialah kerana kita nak bergerak dalam, sekarang ni bila kita ada kereta biasa, kita hanya boleh bergerak dalam keadaan ataupun dalam keadaan 2 dimensi. Apa maksud 2 dimensi? Okey. Kalau kita nak bergerak daripada kiri ke kanan, kalau kita nak kita nak lebih banyak kenderaan boleh lalu, kita hanya boleh besarkan kenderaan ke kiri atau ke kanan. Maknanya kita boleh besar, kita boleh lebarkan sahaja. Lebarkan jalan sahaja. Tetapi ada limit sebab ada rumah, ada bangunan dan sebagainya. Maka idea kereta terbang ialah daripada kita lebarkan jalan, apa kata kita pakai atas pula. Maka kita nak bergerak pada 3 dimensi. Yeah? So that's why flying car. So rather than daripada kita lebarkan jalan, kita terbang atas pula. Masalahnya kita boleh bergerak dalam keadaan 3 dimensi tanpa kereta terbang pun. Nama dia terowong dan juga overpass jejambat. So katalah idea dia contohnya saya nak masuk ke Kuala Lumpur daripada Hulu Kelang. Untuk masuk ke Kuala Lumpur saya nak kereta terbang sebab jalan raya atas tanah dah tak boleh lebar lagi dah. Saya nak kereta terbang. Tak, kita ada benda nama dia akleh. Kita ke atas atau kita guna terowong nama dia smart. So that's the idea. So itu lebih praktikal, lebih murah. Kalau kereta terbang, bayangkan pertamanya macam mana kita nak buat kuasakan undang-undang trafik. Nombor 2, jumlah tenaga yang perlu digunakan oleh kereta terbang macam helikopter, because you need a force to push down to lift you up. How many energy do you need that? Harga dia berapa? Tak murah.
Tak semua orang mampu. Kemudian bila kita guna terbang, banyak lagi benda-benda lain. Bila atas tanah, kita hanya perlu kawal trafik saja. Bila kita atas, kita kena tengok cuaca. Kita kena tengok angin kuat ke tidak. Benda-benda macam tu. Jadi, idea kereta terbang ni menarik lah. Cumanya dari segi kejuruteraan tak praktikal. The idea is that for you to travel in a 3-dimensional plane, you can do that with bridges and underpass and tunnels and things like that.
But Zaidel, isn't it a bit impractical for like traveling in a 3rd dimension? Because as we can see in the example, Akle and Smart Tunnel jam juga.
Imagine if there's no Akle and Smart Tunnel.
It will be more jam lah. But
there you go.
But still, it's still jam because I think of like what you said earlier, bottleneck.
So okay, again, it all depends on how you design the highways.
Yeah, it depends.
It all how your design is. So I'll give an example, Akle, because I use Akle a lot, right? Akle is designed for you to go directly into the financial district of, not financial, KLCC area lah. So Jalan Sultan Ismail from Ampang side. So the idea is that you skip the Jalan Ampang. Ampang Road. Why do you skip Jalan Ampang? Because you can't widen Jalan Ampang anymore. The property is too valuable and houses aren't moving, so you can't do that. So you do a elevated bypass and go. So that sort of thing. So akan ada jam. The trade-off would be in Ampang or in Hulu Kelang. So that's the trade-off. So the idea is that there's no such thing as a perfect design. It's we balance between what's best. You need to balance between all of this.
Faham? So here's the thing, like if we combine this thought of an elevated highway, something like this, but for public transport, which we have now is LRT, but isn't there a cheaper version instead of LRT, we bina bus atas
BRT.
BRT.
Yes, I think it's one of the things that we are so not looking into is an efficient bus system. If there's something that I wish that we would really look into and spend time and money and study, is a very good bus system sebenarnya. Itu yang kekurangan di Malaysia ni sebenarnya. Bukannya train sangat. Train kita dah terpelan dah. Ada circle line lah apa. Kemudian sistem train ni mahal. Sistem kereta api ni sangat-sangat mahal.
It's huge investment.
Yeah. Kemudian rugi. Bila kita buat tu, MRT LRT takkan untung. Kita akan tanggung hutang tiap-tiap tahun, kita kena bayar. Bas adalah sama juga kita tanggung hutang, tapi dia lebih, pertama kita guna infrastruktur yang kita dah sedia ada. Jalan raya tak susah nak buat sangat. Jejambat tak susah nak buat sangat. Itu yang pertama. So bas. 2 benda lah kalau kita nak bincang tentang kesesakan lalu lintas yang kita perlu buat ialah, pertamanya sistem bas yang jauh lebih baik.
Okay.
Keduanya, reka bentuk Kuala Lumpur ni mesra pejalan kaki dan orang berbasikal.
Itu saya nak complain lah. Okay, because like from my apartment to LRT station, so I have to walk for like between 7 to 10 minutes. But then, okay, saya kena lintas satu jalan yang besar tau, but there is no pedestrian walkway.
Tak ada.
And then the car was like really fast, and it's just, you know, very risky for my safety.
Betul.
And yeah, we need to walk like, you know, sometimes like along the road with the cars, so it's like it's really dangerous.
Kritikan saya yang paling utama dari segi reka bentuk di Lembah Kelang ni ialah tidak mesra pejalan kaki dan
tak ada
basikal.
laluan berjalan kaki
Tak
pun.
ada. Setengah ada tak ada. Tapi lain lagi teruk lah. Contoh kalau anda naik LRT Kelana Jaya Line dan anda turun ke Bangsa, ni sebelum dia ada sambungan daripada Abdullah Hukum, turun ke Bangsa, Mid Valley atas tu je, tak sampai, boleh jalan kaki 10 minit je. Saya pernah jalan kaki daripada LRT Bangsa, Bank Rakyat Bangsa nama dia, sebab Bank Rakyat sponsor, jalan kaki ke Mid Valley, kalau silap sikit nyawa melayang. Dia tak ada tempat berjalan kaki dan sebagainya. So jadi kita kena tunggu bas. Jadi cara dia orang selesaikan ialah dia kena bina, tunggu bertahun-tahun. Apabila dekat Abdullah Hukum ada banyak bangunan baru naik, kemudian dia bina jambat yang harga ratus puluh juta, berapa juta saya tak tahu, barulah orang boleh daripada LRT terus jalan kaki ke Mid Valley Mega Mall. Itu kritikan paling utama ialah tidak mesra berjalan kaki. Dan sini yang kita kena buat trade off sebenarnya. So sebab kita boleh buat immediately kita boleh buat Kuala Lumpur ni mesra berjalan kaki. Tapi tak apa, benda pertama akan berlaku.
So lebih ramai orang akan berjalan dan akan naik public transportation.
Tak, benda pertama yang akan berlaku itu kemudian okay, ialah traffic jam. Sebab bila kita besarkan tempat berjalan kaki kita ni, kita kena makan jalan raya. Kita kena kecilkan jalan raya. Contohnya,
so semakin banyak traffic jam lah.
Betul. Jadi tak galakkan orang untuk mandu jalan kaki.
Sebab dah ada laluan tu.
Jalan. Contoh paling mudah ialah Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman daripada Sogo. Perasan tak jalan raya makin kecil? Tapi laluan berjalan kaki makin besar. Itu dia.
So is it working for now?
If you ask me, yes. So contoh salah satu kita pun nak kena buat, we need to educate as well. So a lot of the assumption of businesses is that if there's no traffic, if you can't access it by road, people won't come to my store and buy. But the thing is, study has been studied, I think it happened in Barcelona, is that cars don't induce footfalls. There's a reason why it's called footfall, because you need to use foot. Cars don't encourage businesses because you just pass by. If you walk, if more people walk, people will stop and look at your shop and go inside and buy things. You can open up stalls and bazaars. You can local business and things like that.
Sebab kalau dah ada dalam kereta, orang dah malas nak
keluar. Orang
terus
takkan berhenti.
straight
Betul.
So mula-mula bila dia nak buat dekat Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman, protes daripada peniaga-peniaga dekat situ. Dia kata apa nama ni, nanti orang tak datang tempat kita sebab jam. Orang dah tak nak naik kereta apa sebagainya. Tetapi trade off dia, bila orang jalan, orang akan lebih nak berhenti dan tengok. Itulah dia.
Jadi to improve the laluan berjalan kaki di KL akan mengurangkan trafik.
Tak, dia akan tingkatkan trafik.
Sorry.
Tingkatkan trafik.
Dia akan tingkatkan trafik sebenarnya. Cuma macam Dataran Merdeka. Bila kita tutup, keliling tu akan jam lah. Sebab jalan Dataran Merdeka tu ditutup untuk berjalan kaki. Soal di sini ialah, daripada kita risau tentang traffic jam ke apa, ialah falsafah Kuala Lumpur tu sendiri. Apa falsafah Kuala Lumpur? Adakah Kuala Lumpur ni semata-mata untuk laluan orang pergi kerja dan balik kerja? Ataupun Kuala Lumpur ni ialah satu bandar untuk kita tinggal, untuk kita membesarkan keluarga anak kita, untuk kita adakan keluarga. It's our city, itu kampung kita. So one of the ways to look at is that untuk kita mesra berjalan kaki. Supaya,
so we need to look at the function of KL itself dulu.
Apa falsafah kita?
Okay, as we can see, a lot of like most of the HQs of like companies are situated in KL. So orang from the other states, they come here to work, not actually to live or like, you know, to settle down. So a lot of more and more people are moving out to the other states, especially like for families, because it's just not very practical lah to have a family here, and the cost of living juga. Jadi that's it. Like for working people basically.
KLCC okay je.
Okay macam mana?
70% orang yang kerja KLCC hari-hari naik. Bukan 70% lah, ni saya just pick up that number from my But a big chunk of those who work in KLCC, which is the HQ of Petronas, takes public transportation.
Mhm.
When you go to KLCC, most probably you'll take a train. When you go to that, when you go to Aquaria, do you drive or do you take a train?
I rasa I take a train lah.
Train.
Tak payah cari parking.
Tak payah cari
There's
parking.
connection to KLCC.
Yeah, because one time there was this one experience. Aku reload RM50 dalam Touch and Go. My card Touch and Go.
Habis.
1 minggu kat KL habis.
Seminggu je. Kenapa you tak ambil monthly
again,
pass? It's only RM50.
No, it's not just public transport tau. I bawa kereta, parking, kasih tol, tit. Kasih parking,
this
tit.
is because you
Satu minggu
drive.
tak ada.
Okay.
Bila kita kata mesra berjalan kaki, bukannya orang macam kita saja. Mesra berjalan kaki maksud dia orang tolak stroller selesa pakai, orang kerusi roda selesa pakai, orang ada anak kecil tak takut nak bawa, tak nak kena pegang sentiasa. Jadi
So actually they can park like further and
Betul.
then walk to their
not
destination.
train lah, train or
Yeah.
bus or whatever.
Or shopping mall ke apa ke.
Ya,
Yes.
orang suka naik train misalnya. Macam itulah. Cumanya bila tak mesra berjalan kaki, tak mesra budak-budak, dia memandulah.
Jadi siapa responsible for building like a better planning for untuk pedestrians?
Ini dasar.
Dasar,
So
okay.
antara yang kritikan saya paling utama, terutama pada kerajaan hari ini, ialah pilihan raya kerajaan tempatan. Yang kalau kita tengok, DAP Kuala Lumpur minta. Tetapi Pakatan Harapan negeri lain buat tak tahu, kerajaan pusat dia tak nak. So sebenarnya ada 3 bentuk kerajaan dalam Malaysia ni. Kerajaan pusat, kerajaan negeri, kemudian kerajaan tempatan. Kebanyakan isu di Kuala Lumpur ni kuasa, contohnya pejalan kaki, zoning, mana nak buat pangsa puri, mana boleh buat parking apa semuanya, bergantung pada DBKL. Masalah sekarang ni DBKL sekarang ni diterajui oleh menteri yang tak duduk di Kuala Lumpur pun. Zaman Perikatan Nasional, menteri wilayah ialah orang Kelantan, Pasir Mas. Sekarang ni ialah ketua wanita PKR, ahli parlimen mana tu yang saya lupa dah. Jadi yang tahu tentang keadaan di Kuala Lumpur ialah orang Kuala Lumpur tu sendiri. Jadi kalau kita ada pilihan raya tempatan yang kita boleh pilih ahli majlis. Ahli majlis yang tentukan zon macam mana. Saya tak nak lebuh raya, saya nak pejalan kaki dan sebagainya. Saya tahu apa keperluan masyarakat tempatan. Ialah begitu. Jadi kalau tanya saya, kalau dalam khususnya Lembah Kelang, pilihan raya majlis tempatan akan pilih ahli majlis yang dia punya jiwa dekat di situ. Dan kalau dia tak perform, tukarlah. Masalahnya sekarang, kebanyakan lantikan politik. Lantikan politik, dia hanya pentingkan kepada an audience of one. Bos dia lah.
Sebab itu
Menteri wilayah ke, Menteri Besar Selangor ke, macam tu.
Dia yang akan pilih ahli majlis tu. Tapi kalau kita ada pilihan raya untuk cari ahli majlis, then rakyat can pilih.
Betul.
But it's not happening at the moment right now.
Antara itu yang antara benda yang kalau kita nak perjuangkan ialah pilihan raya majlis tempatan. Kemudian contohnya ada protes daripada UMNO misalnya, kerana dia kata kalau ada pilihan raya majlis tempatan, Kuala Lumpur ni akan isu perkauman pula. Sebab majoriti penduduk di Kuala Lumpur ni bukan Melayu, Cina. Dia kata nanti DBKL dikuasai oleh orang Cina dan sebagainya. Karut dan bodoh. Macam mana kerajaan madani boleh layan benda-benda macam tu?
Betul.
Kerana pilihan raya majlis tempatan ikut zon. Ikut zon, wangsa maju, majoriti orang Melayu situ, mestilah dia akan pilih ahli majlis yang di kalangan yang dia kenal. Di Bukit Bintang, takkan kita nak pilih orang Kampung Baru. Kampung Baru akan pilih orang Kampung Baru. Bukit Bintang akan pilih orang Bukit Bintang. Logik lah.
Tapi cakap pasal ahli majlis, ramai juga tak tahu siapa ahli majlis kat tempat dia orang.
Betul.
Faham tak? Macam how they want to complain about the issue ke.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Sebab orang tak kenal siapa ahli majlis mereka. Longkang rosak, jalan rosak, cari adun.
Dia
ini semua salah adun.
report kat adun, betul.
Kan? because they don't know who the ahli majlis is.
Yeah.
That's very interesting lah. I think we can talk about this next episode.
Definitely, yeah.
Zaidel, if you would, next time we will invite you again if you are open to that. Alright,
Okay.
so I think it's a good time for us to wrap up today's episode, and thanks to our sponsor for this episode, Architects of Diversity, sudi menaja episod kali ini, series ini dengan menaja equipment yang fancy gaya macam best way ni.
Cantik kan?
So do give them a follow on Instagram, on their social media. We'll link it down in the descriptions. And I think that's for today's episode. No?
Sure, yep. So we had like a good discussion about traffic jam today. We hope that our audience learn a lot about it. And then we hope to discuss more interesting episodes in the next one. Yep.
So is it safe to expect next episode will be about local council elections, Asia?
Yes, if you guys want us to talk about a topic, please comment or let us know. Then we might discuss more about it. Yep.
And again, untuk sesiapa yang ingin menaja episod kami, boleh hubungi kami kat email atau medsos, atau sesiapa pun yang nak naik show kami, boleh juga hubungi kami melalui email atau media sosial juga.
Yes. And before we end, Yuki ada nak cakap pasal proverb, any proverb for today?
Oh, not for today. Traffic jam is too stressful for me to come up with.
Peribahasa.
Kita
Peribahasa.
ada section peribahasa for every episode, and Yuki will give one.
Saya
proverb.
boleh kongsilah satu
Okay.
peribahasa
Let's listen from
yang
Zaidel.
saya reka sendiri.
Okay.
Apa maksud dia, tuan-tuan, bergantung kepada bagaimana anda lihat. Peribahasanya berbunyi begini. Sedangkan kapal terbang pun boleh kena hijack, apalah sangat hati manusia.
Tapi apa kaitan dengan topik
Tak
kita
ada.
hari ni? Tak ada kaitan.
Tak berkaitan.
Okay.
Tak kena mengena.
Tak ada.
Okay, so once again, thank you Zaidel for coming on our show. Terima kasih Asia sudi datang studio hari ini, walaupun datang lambat, tetapi terima kasih, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Alright, see you guys. Bye-bye.